Okay, let's talk about the ecodiesel. The Gladiator, we'll talk about it as a truck later. And the accessories, we'll talk about that later. But right now, let's focus on the engine. There seems to be a lot of people out there that like to bash on the ecodiesel engine and drivetrain or emissions system. But I think a lot of that is self-induced. You see in Facebook posts all the time saying, I've had this issue or that issue. And then you need to start wondering, well, what alterations have you done to your Jeep? Do you have a history with diesels? Because if you live in the city and you drive a mile or two to work, don't use your diesel. You will hate it, and the diesel will hate it. You need to be diesel aware if you're going to own one. Now, let's say, like me, I live out in the middle of nowhere. It's 20 miles to town. Well, to a good sized town, it's probably 25 miles. It's 15 miles to work, and it's all 55. So I get to open it up a bit. If it's less than that, it might not be diesel friendly. But more than that, it's all good. But what I'm talking about is I ask a lot of questions on posts on Facebook. What have you done to your diesel that has had these issues? And the modifications seem to always be the key. You don't want to take your diesel that's tuned to the exhaust system and has a filter in the exhaust system and throw gigantic tires on it, heavy bumpers, winch, recovery gear, camping gear, etc. You don't want to throw all that in it and not re-gear it. Yes, it's got plenty of power to handle it, but it's taken it out of its RPM range of ejecting all the deposits in the exhaust. Just being aware of it's a diesel. The government's really screwed up the exhaust system on it. So you have to be aware that there's certain things that it's not as good at. City driving continuously is one. It is definitely not made for that. This thing, mine, this one right here, gets on the highway at least once a month for a 100-mile run. That's probably why it's got 40,000 miles on it, and it's only a year and a half old. But we take it on lots of trips to do lots of off-roading with it also. I gotta tell you, as far as mass-produced engines go, this engine seems extremely solid. I would not be afraid of buying another one. But one of the things I would do, if you don't like people bashing them and you own one, get rid of all those pages, all the Facebook pages where people just like to complain about them. I have found out that half the people that complain about the diesels on those pages have never even owned a diesel. They're just complaining for a friend, or they've heard this, or they've heard that, and they have zero experience. This is my 7th diesel truck. I've owned quite a few. I've owned the TDI. I've owned the CRD. And of course, this ecodiesel, I've owned 4 generations of Cummins diesels. And this one's just as good as any of those so far. True, I only have 40,000 miles on it. And I'm not sure it's going to last 250, and I don't usually own vehicles long enough to make it that far anyways. But in my opinion, I would not be afraid to buy another ecodiesel. Now, some of the accessories on here, I would never buy again. We'll get into that in another video. But I just wanted to talk candid about the ecodiesel, and the naysayers out there, don't pay attention. If you want a diesel and you have the right driving habits for a diesel, buy it. It won't be long before the government don't let us have them anymore. So if you want one, you might want to get it. With the incoming electric vehicles, these things will be phased out. Right now I'm running my 33s Rubicon wheels. I took the 35s off. We've had a couple of snows here, as you wouldn't tell right now because it's all turned to mud, but we did have a couple of snows, and the skinnier tires do better in the snow. So I just wanted to put my 2 cents out there on the internet. I know there's plenty of people who have their 2 cents and say these are awful vehicles. This one's made it several 500-mile trips, a couple of 1,000-mile trips, and it's been flawless. The only time it's been to the shop was for its first 3 oil changes that were free when you buy a Jeep. So I would definitely not hesitate, if something happened to this one, to pick up something with an ecodiesel in it. Watch some of my other videos. It runs strong. It's not like it's been abused, but it does get used. I tow with it, daily drive it to work every day, and it definitely sees its trails. So, on that note, have a good day. Like, share, follow, and I'll have more videos.